Well, good morning, everyone. Today in this snowy, icy, sleety, I'm not even sure what it is. It's just a weird weather day. It's been a weird weather week. But anyway, today we're going to address a problem I have with our West Virginia hills. You see our pig barn behind us there. In fact, you may be able to see little buggers waiting to be fed. But here's the issue that we have. So the feed regimen I have for our pigs is daily. We feed out not only the boars and the sows, but also our feeder pigs that we're growing out for processing this year. We feed them daily, and that's a soaked ration. I've gone into explanation on previous videos as to why we do that, but there's a lot of benefits, of course. But what happens is you can see the elevation. I'm standing here in the watershed down behind the barn in the workshop. What happens are, especially for these little guys, they get so rowdy with the food bowl that they end up flipping them over the hill. So they end up down here in the watershed, and I drive up to feed them and realize I got to walk all the way back down to get the bowl, or it's further up in the back of the watershed. So it's always chasing the bowl. Also, we're at a point now where they're about halfway through their life cycle, and I need to up their feed ration. So the amount of feed that needs to go into two bowls is too much for the two bowls to handle. So it's time now to make yet another trough. We've toyed around with some different styles, but we're going to make a different one here that I think is going to be better and take advantage of some old material that we want to recycle. Now, this design is not something I've come up with. It's not unique to us. It's actually something I've seen Jordan Green do and a couple other people do on their pastured pig setups. And that's utilize old tires, cutting them up and attaching them to a platform to make up a trough that is heavy duty and can handle all that pig traffic. So we have a surplus of tires. Those of you watching the channel, when we put new tires on the livestock trailer, put new tires on the 16-foot utility trailer. The guy that I have that does tire work for me, he's really inexpensive, but he refuses to take the old tires. Hence the reason why he's so inexpensive. So it's our responsibility to take them back. So I purposely held on to these for this reason. I knew I wanted to try this. So we're going to use tires, and we're going to use some poplar that we've milled off the mill, but of course, the one-by material I want is at the bottom of the stack, as it always goes. So everything's frozen together right now, so we're going to have fun cracking that loose and uncovering those. And then I'm going to show you what we're going to do for a base to keep it out of the mud. Alright, so I got down to my one-bys, and I know my tires, got a bit of a gangster lean there. Here, let me turn my head that way. Make sure I can match it. So I know my tire outside diameter is 26 inches. So I want to make a platform that makes that up at least. So this is, two of these together is 14 inches. That's my traditional 1x7. Pardon me as I stick this tape underneath you. If it tickles, I apologize. And 9 feet long. So I know 26, if I want two of them butted up together, which I want to try to do, is imagine two donuts on a platform, then that's, what is that? That's 52, isn't it? So 52 times 2, 100 and 407. Ooh, I think I can get away with using two boards. No. Yeah. Two boards and cut them in half. I'm going to go ahead and take out 4, because knowing me, if I put all this back, then I'm going to have a problem, and it's going to require me to come get more. So let's go ahead and take out double what I need. Frozen together, of course. Okay. Now, to put it all back. Okay, so got the wood stacked back up nice and crisp, so it will continue to dry in all this ice and snow and rain. I realize if I was truly trying to dry wood quickly, then I should have this under shelter, or at least have some tin on top of it. I usually don't keep it around long enough to let it air dry that much, but that would be the ideal situation. So the ice storm we had earlier this week took out this pine tree in the pig pasture. I was going to cut it up, but then realized because we're so low on forage right now that the pigs are actually enjoying it. Whew. All right, so a little side note, I want to share a cold weather tip that I've learned that some of you northerners probably know that already, but man, if you're like me, where if you can keep your core warm, then you can work all day outside, no matter what the temperature is, and that's the way I am. So discovered with the virus, I ordered a bunch of these neck gaiters for my my boys and I to use, and what's crazy about it, the stretchy material they are, that polyester or whatever spandex mix, it locks in all the body heat coming up out of my coat, and so I'm not, I can't be completely buttoned up because it's too constrictive to work. And usually you get sweat going, you start to cool down, all that type of stuff. Well, these, man, it's like putting a cap on something. There's just no heat coming out of there, and I'm actually going to start losing a layer here because I'm getting so warm. It's just crazy how well something difference that makes in just having that on. So here's the basic layout to this premise, and of course tires are full of ice. So just imagine a tire here, and another tire just butted up beside it, attached down to these boards. Boards are connected together, of course. So these tires really become the edge of the sidewalls of the bowl in the bottom. So we'll take our saw and we'll cut the sidewall out right along the crown of the tire here. And then what we'll do is we'll cut out the bead on the inside and screw down heavily all the way around to suck this to the board as much as possible. And the key will be to take out as much gap between the boards as possible too, because we don't want feed falling through. So that would be a double bowl system there. That should work pretty well. So the first thing we'll do is get my platform built and get it all attached, and maybe even put a bead of caulk on the underside, depending on how our gaps are. I won't get too crazy with that. Don't like the idea of the pigs eating caulk, but I think on the underside we should be okay. Wintertime complicates things sometimes, doesn't it? The reason why I'm doing that, of course, is so I can get a nice, the best butt up of the two boards as possible to keep from having feed falling through. So I'm going to get my good friend Bessie involved here to help me out. Again, I want to make these joints as tight as possible. This poplar isn't completely dry, so it's going to shrink and create some cracks. So we want to minimize the starting point as much as possible. Oh, I fell over. All right, so there's a little method to my madness in putting these supports under on the bottom side. This is the bottom side of the trough plank. So I've been debating what's going to become ground contact for this. I've got a treated 4x4 behind the camera there. I thought I was going to use it. I definitely don't want to have the poplar be direct ground contact. It's not going to last very long. But I got to think, I do have plenty of tires. And what if I took 2 extra tires and attached them to the bottom like so. Thinking attaching those, and then of course when I flip it over, that's the platform they sit on. The pigs are tall enough now that they could easily get into that. That's only going to be not even 10 inches off the ground, and of course with all the mud it's going to settle even more. Obviously the tires contact with the ground, not going to rot nearly as quickly as any wood. Somewhat stable. The pigs get on it, they may start to tip it over and stuff. It's going to add some extra weight to it. It's going to make it harder to move, but also going to make it a little bit harder for them to flip over the hill. That's really what I want to try to avoid. So I may try that, but we're not going to attach them right now. I'm going to wait until I get the other side done and just make sure all those things are going to work before I start putting the base on. Comment below if you think this is a bad idea. And of course the project will already be done, so I'll just read your comment and lament over my ignorance. So I don't know that I've ever cut a tire before, so I'm not exactly sure where to start with that. I've got a reciprocating saw, got a torch, got a handsaw. There's all kinds of things I've got that'll cut, but what's going to make the most sense? I'm going to try first, got a new DeWalt, one of those oscillating tools. Let's try that first, see what that does. Well, that cuts, but that's going to take forever. Let's go up. Well, that worked pretty well, actually. So other than the fact that it looked like Otis the Town Drunk cut it, it cut fairly well. And I kept a rolled element here simply because I wanted to maintain the rigidity of the bowl. Since we're putting wet feed in it, I didn't want it to pucker so badly that it would spill out on an incline. And I think the pigs can still get their little snouts in there to get every tasty morsel. Again, licking a tire probably isn't the greatest thing in the world, but I think of these indestructible feed bowls that we have for them that are not indestructible. It seems like it's the same rubber material, but who knows. As you can see here, I don't think I'm going to be able to get that bead to flatten out, and I definitely don't want to leave that crack where food can get under there. So I think I'm going to have to cut out the bead. I won't cut as aggressively as I did here, but cut out just the bead and see if we can get that to lay down. Well, that blade heating up in that tire, that's nostalgia there. That's the West Virginia trash fire like I remember as a kid. Whew, ain't nothing like that. So that bead came out pretty good, and it's going to allow me to lay that lip down with copious amounts of screws as we go around. But that's the debate. I'm still debating. I'm not debating with anyone else. I'm debating with myself. Do I use screws, aggressive screws, bunches of them, a whole bunch, kind of like you'd see on like an off-road tire where you see all the bolts all the way around the bead. Something like that's aggressive that I can really suck it down and less chance of getting stripped out, or go with some bolts. So I'm actually bolting through with a washer nut on the bottom side and trying to bolt that down. My concern with either is if these would work themselves loose and a pig swallow one, which is going to do the more damage. Obviously a wood screw in the inside of a pig is probably going to be much more dangerous and damaging than a bolt, but the bolt is going to have a better tendency of coming loose, I think. So I got to look at my hardware and continue to think. Well, okay, so I got the 2 tires attached, and what I ended up doing is going with wood screws. And debated back and forth quite a bit off camera, but here's my reasoning with going with it. Number one, the wood screw is a very aggressive screw, really gets into the wood, bites in deep, and maintains the integrity of the wood. It allowed me to put a lot of screws all the way around and really suck that rubber down so the pig will be less apt to try to get its nose under it and thus tear it up. If I was using bolts, they would have to been distanced so much that there would have been a little pucker, and that would have just promoted the pig to get a snout underneath it. What I did do with the wood screws, though, is I blunted the ends enough that it wouldn't be, perforatable, if that's such a word. Well, I mean, I say that, but less likely to poke into an intestine or stomach lining if indeed they swallowed one. But still had enough bite that I could get in through the rubber. You can see here all the different attachment points. And my thought process is I didn't even use washers either, that if this starts to come up or they're going to tear it away with a washer, they're most likely going to tear that out of the wood. Without a washer, then they may just tear it out of the tire. Again, very aggressive wood screws here. So thinking that even if they started to tear the tire away from the wood, that the screw would stay in the wood and not come up and come loose. And I'm also hoping, since the tire has all the, it obviously has the steel belts in the tread, but has all the cords in the sidewalls, I'm hoping that even if this tire does come apart, that screw being aggressive and being nested inside those cords would really kind of hold on. You can kind of see all the cords here in this cross section cut. So that, it'd be really difficult. So it's just going to be something where I'm going to need to inspect on a regular basis and just see how it goes. But I really there's no way that's coming off anytime soon. I say that, you get a 200-pound pig throwing it around. But it's really bolted down well. I put 3-inch screws all the way through my main supports underneath, so they should bite pretty well. So I think I am going to go ahead and use the other 2 tires for legs or stands on the bottom to get it off the ground. Now I'm not going to cut any of the sidewalls out because I want to maintain the integrity and the rigidity of that tire as much as possible so it makes a good leg. And we'll just screw it down through our main supports there and bolt it in and do that on both sides. After we get the ice out of it, of course. Put a new battery on first. All right, so now the $20,000 question, can I even lift the hateful thing? Let's see if we've made a monstrosity. Oh yeah, that's not too bad. There's a chance they're going to flip that over. Well, ain't nothing we can do but try it out and see. Did you ever see those scenes in the circus where the clowns come pouring out of the clown car? Got some hit. All right, Lee, let's try this again.
Once you get it up and off that, it won't be so difficult.
Well, a little chink in the armor there. Looks like we may need to put a divider in between it to keep them from standing in one and eating from the other. Definitely higher, but I think it's going to sink in the mud quite a bit. Need to feed the sows because they're getting very unsettled. What we need is a little more mud and ice around here. It's funny, you get ice everywhere else, but where you try to feed the pigs, it's all mud. Let's go check on our others, see how they're doing. You can see how far that tire has already sunk in the mud. I probably won't be able to move this till April. So now that I've got a much larger capacity, you can see the old bowl right here is what they were using. And my goodness, that tire is probably double the diameter and probably twice as deep too, that times 2. So 2 bowls upgraded to 2 tires. It's time to bump the ration up again. And we're still feeding out 16%. We'll do that up until 2 months out of processing. So we'll stop that at the end of February actually. He tolerates it for a little bit, then he kind of pushes them out.
He does?
Yeah.
That's right.
So what do you think, Kel? Is that gonna work?
It's like a jungle gym.
Yeah. It reminds me of my youth, a little fat kid trying to scramble up to the table. Oh well, we'll see. Obviously I'll do updates. If it's over the hill tomorrow, then we may post that on a community tab. But
As high as it is, they can use it as a diving board.
Yeah.
Into the sludge. Ugh.
Well, that's the... I hated to have it down in the mud, so that's why I put the tires on it, so it wouldn't rot out as fast. But we'll see.
They might use it to float down
Yeah.
the hill.
All right, well, we're going to go in and call it a day after this lovely West Virginia winter. Take care, everybody.